Welcome to Decker Tech. Today we're looking at the final deck list for Magnus in a Madness 16 Across the Obelisk adventure mode. This is going to be our Tank Magnus frontliner. You've probably seen the starting deck video, and this is just kind of what the final deck may look like, and we'll kind of discuss what other options I had. Since this is Madness 16, I don't always have the option to get my perfect final deck list. I'd say this one was actually fairly good. It has some things I didn't like about it, and we will get through those. So first off, the staple of any Magnus, I shall say, is Entrench. You normally get this Act 2, Act 3, 2 or 3. You can't really cast it, the version that we want, until upgraded. That's why it's not even showing there. We can't cast this version. This is usually the version you craft. It costs 5. So depending on your difficulty, on your starting perks, stuff like that, you may just be required to have Defense Mastery to be able to cast it on your first turn. The goal is to cast this turn 1 usually, or turn 2 if you can't get there. But you don't ever want to draw it and not be able to cast it. So in this case, I found a corrupted one. Very nice. I won't need it in the final boss. I can play around it. So the burning part of it, or the vanishing part of it, isn't really too much of a downside. But usually you'll be going for this blue Entrench. Sorry, this yellow Entrench, blue rarity. And you're looking mainly just for this Fortify. I want to be able to, when Magnus goes slow, I want his block to still be applicable to the team. And if I overblock, I want that block to go to the next turn for if any reason the monster's going faster than me, or just to stack up more block and more survivability. Entrench is a very, very powerful warrior card if you're going any sort of block. You're not really going to play too much into getting more fortified charges. You don't have to worry about that. But you will try to consistently cast this every 2 turns, because the turn you cast it will then roll over those shields to the next turn. Maybe every turn. Sorry, I can't math here. Maybe I usually have 1 4 to 5 charge. I don't know what I'm talking about. Ignore me. Or the fights are usually over by turn 2 or 3. Usually, you only need 1 cast of Entrench if your fights are going as ideally as you'd like, which is why I was fine with the corrupted version. Oh, here why? Because we start with 1 fortify stack. That's what... Man, these screens sometimes I always get lost. I get lost in them. It starts with 1 charge, but warriors currently with max perks will have 2 charges. So therefore, you only have to cast it every other turn. I need to trust myself here a little more. Anyway, that's enough about Entrench. Push Forward, really great card. You won't have as much access to it here in the future as you do now. It's currently seeing, like, it was recently, since this, it's been changed once, it's going to be changed again. The whole point is here, I want to get speed to the team or block to the team, depending on how comfortable I'm feeling. I don't have any barricades in this version, so I'm running the yellow one that gives block to the team. If I was already covered with barricades, I might consider the blue version to get more speed to my team. Really depends on what kind of speed manipulation you have going on. The nice part about this is it's a defense card, it's 2, it's basically an upgraded barricade, let's be real. Because barricade, in your starting deck, push forward is just, it's all the things but more. The thing you're losing from normally running the yellow barricade is the reinforce, so you do have to pick that up elsewhere if you're not running barricade, and I have that in my repair armor. Magnus starts with it, and then repair armor I can put it on anyone that I feel needs it on my team. So with Magnus, you want to make sure you have access to reinforce as a warrior. I want to be blocking my entire team, maybe some speed manipulation, and the other thing you need to do is vulnerable. Right now, my vulnerable is, of course, the Howls. You got the starting Howl, I've got a yellow Howl, and then I also have this Intimidate. Ideally, this Intimidate should be a Carnage, but as you can see, I can't afford it. Carnage is a little pricier, but it does help on the final boss to be able to stack it faster. Carnage also, like Intimidate, both of these are really good at removing buffer stacks. Intimidate's a little better at it because it does 3 different types, but Carnage does 2 twice, so it's hit or miss on, you know, how accurate you can be with Carnage is the problem. So you want to be able to remove those buffer stacks so that you can get the vulnerable going, or that your team can do their DPS plan. Ground Slam's another viable option. It hits all monsters. It does 3 vulnerable, but the issue here is the cost. How much energy do you have available to you? Demoralizing Shout is another version, mainly because it just has such a high number and it applies Weak. Weak being a very good survival item for your team. Something, 50% less damage done. Yeah, that's pretty good. Remember, that is additive with Powerful, so if your enemy has Powerful and they have Weak, Max Powerful and they have Weak, they're basically just doing normal damage, but you still saved yourself a lot of damage, so. And all these options, it's really just about how accurate do you have to be and how much energy do you have available. So if I have enough, in this team comp, Magnus is going first, so I have only my starting energy to work with, and if I want to be able to cast Entrench, I do have the purple one here, so I'm a little better off than the average run would, but you don't want to be forced with a decision between Ground Slam and Entrench most of the time, because it's a hard choice to make, because vulnerable to the enemy team, big deal. So Piercing Howl is honestly the best vulnerable applier, just because it costs 1, does AoE 3, and your Captain's Howl is, of course, the best. So if you can get your deck small enough and consistent enough to be able to always do Howl, and Trench, that is your best opening gambit. And then any extra energy can go to anything else you need. Shake It Off. I still want to be keeping myself healthy. You may not need this if your healer has a Mass Dispel. I personally can never afford or usually just don't go with a Mass Dispel in my team, so I'll keep Shake It Off to the end. You'll kind of get a feel for that as you play through the run, whether you can cut this or not. I'm never unhappy to see it. Even if I only play it 1 out of 4 times I see it, I'm still love it the one time I play it, right? It's very bountiful, very bountiful. I am talking too fast. I will try to slow down. I say slow down and I lower my voice. So, goal of Magnus, he's got a lot of roles, right? I have to block up the team, so Entrench, Push Forward, and Barricade. Those are your options. I have to reinforce the team, Barricade and Repair Armor, and or Battle Shout. That's another playable one of it. Yeah, those are the only real 3 versions I play. Barricade, Battle Shout, or Repair Armor. I personally enjoy the Repair Armor route. I can't be shy away from a Barricade if you can't find a Push Forward, but since I have Push Forward, I don't need Barricade. You just kind of mix and match between those 3 cards, right? And then Vulnerable, and then Vulnerable is Carnage, Ground Slam, Shout, or Howl. Early game, because I don't have as slim of a deck and warriors don't have many Vanish cards available to them, you can see me running like 3 or 4 Intimidates. I'm not shy about Intimidate early on. But as the game goes on and I get more boons, I get more of my talent cards, and maybe I get some more Enrages I didn't get this time, then I'll start cutting those Intimidates so that I have a more consistent AoE-themed deck. And you want your final deck to be based off of how many cards you can consistently draw. For Act 4, one consideration is that in the final fight, you have Martyrdom and you have Sads, and you don't want to miss making sure you have Vulnerable on the boss. So with Evelyn in this composition, she's giving me 3 Inspire, 2 Scrolls of Intellect, and a Fountain Pen. So I want to subtract 2 for the Martyrdom and the Sads. Mainly 2 because in my version, I'm going to have Magnus sit on the Martyrdom until I need it. So I want my deck to be basically 6 cards deep, my final deck. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I only have 5. And so that's fine. I will always be drawing those 5. And in that 5, I have all my checklists done. I have Speed, I have Block, I have Reinforce, and I have Vulnerable. Like I said, in this specific comp, I would rather have this been a Carnage than Intimidate. But as long as you have 1 reapplier of Vulnerable, like I can consistently keep it going, not just the initial burst of it, because Captain's Howl vanishes, Piercing Howl vanishes. You want a way to consistently reapply it. Also, with items on this version, I did not have any... Well, I did have plus vulnerable charges. That's why everything's nice. It's nice to have 1 set of plus vulnerable charges somewhere. Magnus, usually I want to have some way to have fast at the beginning of the turn, I did not end up with that. I replaced Forest Crown with Sapphire Ring. Usually I have Forest Crown, or in this case I was looking for the armor that does +2 speed and start the combat with fast, because Sharpie will apply it on future turns. So the idea is I want to start first and stay first. And that's what you're looking for with the armor. Weapons, Destiny, or anything, any cost reducers or vulnerable increase is good here. Armor, I want speed, and as much resistance as I can afford while being fast. Ring, same kind of thing, fast. In this case, Sapphire Ring does allow me to do that entrench and ground slam combo that I was talking about. If I wanted to in this particular instance, this would allow for that. And then of course just more charges or more energy in the accessory slot. Pretty straightforward for Tank Magnus. You just go down the right side. There is, if you've got enough offense cards or melee attacks, you can go offense mastery, like say if I had the Carnage or the ground slam. But usually you have more defense than offense, so it's just what's the most energy efficient for you. I think I talked enough about Magnus. Let me know if you have any questions. I'll catch you later. Peace.